Hi, I'm Mike London. I'm visiting with a lot of artists throughout the Miami Valley, artists who work here and many who live here. Culture Works supports a wide range of artists throughout the county, and this series of interviews is our chance to get to know a few. So today, I'm speaking with Rachel Botting. Rachel, hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good now that we get a chance to talk. So
Totally.
I don't do a big introduction on these things, Rachel. I want you're an artist. I know you're an artist. And and because of the way you've got your camera angled, it's like perfect. We already have a hint about you. So tell me about yourself as an artist.
Okay. Well, I was pretty much born an artist. I always say I was born with a crayon. I was always going to be creative and doing something. It was just purely genetic, if it's such a thing. And my mom was really good about taking, she's creative, she does watercolors and stuff, but taking us to museums, exposing us to art and books and shows and movies. So she was able to get me into beyond art classes in school, but to like ones that, I don't know if you call them private, whatever, but with a group of people, like just sketching and some rudimentary painting. So here and there, like on the summertime, that was a big deal. So I've always done more traditional art. I went to UD, got my BFA in graphic design, and I've worked in the industry for years, and but I've always done quote unquote. At some point, I'm going to stop putting fine art in quotes. People tell me, you know, I'm one of those artists who's not quite getting there, taking myself more seriously. But people get on me for that. But anyway, so I started working a couple graphic design jobs, and I got to meet more designers and friends that happened to also be frustrated traditional artists.
Sure.
And I opened my mouth one day and was just like, you know, somebody should put together a group where they can, you know, especially as designers, not have the pressure of the world of holding a whole show. You know, it's a one-person show, but as a collective and a group. And my friend Greg looks like, well, why don't you do it? And I'm like, okay. You know, it took a lot more stewing, but it took his help too, and others. And so we formed the group Miasma, I think it's a wandering noxious gas. Or you know, and so we were like kind of like that. We were mostly, a lot of us kind of more kind of punk and edgy, not fluffy bunnies and, you know, daisy paintings. And so it was typical of us, and we didn't have a traditional space, so we wandered around where we could to get hanging space. And that really opened up me creatively, but a lot of my friends too. We would set show dates and find spaces. We had the first show or event at the Cannery with Beth Duke. It was still just raw open warehouse.
Yep.
And we had to sweep the floor and put up some temporary walls. And so it was good for her and it was good for us. So it kind of went on like that, here and there. And then slowly people got wind of us. And I think Judd Yalkit
yes,
passed, unfortunately, but he got us going into a gallery at the convention center. And that went really well. And he continued to showcase us in spaces, but word of mouth. So eventually we worked our way up into legitimate galleries. So we didn't have to build them from scratch and run can lights everywhere. We were at DVAC, and let's see, Terry Welker, he was a big fan of ours. He used to have his architect studio in Oregon, and he hosted a number of our shows, and that was amazing. That just kind of helped blow us up.
So
and
I'm curious, during that time when you were working really as a graphic artist, I call it the day job, pay job. But I mean, you know, all artists, we all have day job, pay jobs. But what I'm wondering is, what kind of work were you doing then? I mean, when you think about your day job as a
Right.
graphic artist, what
Hmm.
kind of fine art or other I call it personal art, really.
Right. That's a
Your
good idea.
own personal art, not the work for hire.
Yeah.
What was that work like? Your personal art at that time?
Okay. Um, well, my best buddy back then was David Arnett. So we met in grade school, and he went to art, I think at Wright State, and I went to UD, and we always continually hung out. And we started realizing we were attracted to rusty bits around Dayton,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
kind of industrial discard. And we were like getting excited about it, and so we started collecting it. And at the time, my husband and I had a 2-story garage. So the second story we used as our studio. And we just started hauling all this steel and funky stuff, and some stuff was quite hazardous, but so we started really, I would say, we didn't have a name for it then, but just as the years went on, finally found the word assemblages, or 3D visual art, I guess. But I like the word assemblages.
Yeah.
And we both worked as a team, kind of supporting each other's growth. We'd also do some side little projects, so they could be sculptural. They're very experimental. Yeah, a lot of them could be hung on the wall, but we would also do some freestanding pieces, and we tended to gravitate towards things we could illuminate with, like it could be a illuminated piece on the wall, or it could be kind of a cool lamp. And that led to our show at the Firefly building with VMA, which I ended up working for later as a designer, but they had an awesome gallery space. So they hosted Miasma, and the show was called, what was it called? It was light themed. So many of it were perfect for David and I, but then the other artists was like kind of pushed like, oh, maybe I need to think about light in their work. So, you know, it kind of works in and pushes all the way around. So I did a lot of traditional art. I could do some illustration, but I'm not a traditional artist. I don't do portraiture, landscapes, and that kind of thing.
So I'm curious, because I've seen your work. I love your work. What's interesting to me, first of all, I like the fact that you call it assemblages, because it really feels like that. But I'm curious about when you're creating a work like that. I mean, I've worked with a lot of artists over the years, and I hear different stories of the creation. And some artists tell me, I keep putting things together and I discover along the way what it is I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
Is
they
that
find
what this?
each other. That's what I've explained to people. Yeah.
Because I've had other artists who say, no, I have a vision in mind, and I take the pieces to put together to create. So it's in my mind. Other artists tell me, no, I'm discovering it is part of my process in terms of what it's creating. I'm just curious about yours. I mean, how does that work for you?
I work both ways, but mostly, well, it's more like I collect the cast-offs of our society, so to speak. I'm really hurt and sad that Mendelson's is closing, but that has always been a great source of, and a lot of Dayton artists and some Cincinnati artists, a great source for widgetry, just oddities, and maybe they, it was also really good for artists with, reasonably priced and stuff you just wouldn't go into like Lowe's Hardware and find. You'd like, because there was a lot of like restaurant stuff or military photography. And so between going to Mendelson's and then collecting things on the streets, I used to drive my ex-husband crazy. We'd be driving down the road, and you could see my head turn because there was a piece of rust on the side of the road. He's like, we're not stopping for that. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go back. But so a lot of it was having this collection, availability of that second story studio to spread it all out. And David and I would sit there, just kind of look at stuff, and kind of, it was interesting to be two people of one mind. I know that's very, very rare. And,
yeah, it is.
So we would like, this and this kind of looks interesting. Oh yeah, okay, then, in this void we need something, and maybe a pop of colors. It's a lot of it, even today, is gathering all the bits and thinking about it. But now I do a bit more research that I can, in videos, as far as like, okay, I have this stuff. What's the best way to go about gluing it? Because we used to work like hard and fast and just kind of like whatever was in hand and wire together, and it was as long lasting. So I'm a little bit better at coming together an idea in my head now. I want to think this and that, but okay, I'm gonna wait a minute and go get the proper tools or glues or whatever.
Yeah.
And just do this right the first time. I'm a very impatient person, but
So you've had learning along the way, but it sounds like this whole concept of this three-dimensional assembly has been a key part of your work for a long time.
Yes, it is. And it was frustrating when I was in Charlotte for 14 years.
Yeah.
It's not the Rust Belt, and
Yes.
Charlotte is a very clean and shiny city. And I was just like, I remember like just within a month, I'm like, there's no rust to be had here. It was frustrating. It was a different environment in the creative circles, and I just had a very hard time. And like the moment I came back to Dayton, it was just like my friends that were way into my art back then and design. It was like, oh, you're back, and we're always very encouraging. To the point where my friend Richard and Wendy, we have a studio at Front Street, and they let me work in this wonderful space. And they knew they wanted me have the option to kind of really expand and like develop in new directions, because I was kind of cooped up forever. But the assemblage has always been pretty key to it. I think it's maybe it's because I've always been a graphic designer, and that's 2D. And I find like you could tell like a lot of my art-ish, graphic designer perhaps is put together, because there's more. If you're a designer, you can see the design aesthetics,
Yes.
Yeah, and then I started bringing in kind of my art because it was like more industrial, whatever. I started bringing that into my graphic design where it was able. And actually, I did a piece for Culture Works. Using my little rusty bits and gears, and photographed it and scanned it in and everything. I used to do a bunch of Culture Works.
Yeah, you did. So when you bring something in, are you trying to take that 3D piece and find certain aspects about it that you could bring into 2D?
Not so much. I actually don't do as much graphic design now.
Okay.
I've been doing focusing more on art with a capital A, but I definitely used to bring it in more. It was also the time of like Carson, the famous graphic designer, and he did it was like the whole kind of beginning of like the nothing on a grid and just rough and chopped, and definitely more, his design, his typography was really edgy, and that's like that really spoke to me. So I was able to sometimes be able to do that in the more creative design projects. So.
Yeah. So Rachel, you said that really you knew you were an artist and it was creative from the very get-go. What I'm curious about is, do you know why you're a visual artist and why you're not a dancer or a singer? Do you know what it was that?
Well, I also dabbled in music. Just in school, clarinet, which I was apparently fine at. And then after braces came off, I did flute, and that was just horrible. But that was kind of an aside of creativity. I don't know. I would almost have to ask my folks. Literally, I had crayons and paper to entertain myself. We were Air Force family, and it was just me before my brother came along in 4 years. So I entertained myself. I fortunately, for my mom, I could do entertaining myself, and that involved pretty quickly working with crayons. I gotta give a lot to Mom. She saw the spark and provided like maybe coloring books, and then carpet safe crayons or markers. So I don't have that aha moment. My teacher saw it and all throughout, and they would like let me, if there's an art assignment for the art class that was XYZ, and they was like, see me going to dirt, like, well, let Rachel do a little ABC on the extra on that, you know? And so that was cool. I was very much encouraged by my teachers and, you know, friends and family. And so I just kept going, and it was just, I was, I always said, I always kind of felt bad for people that didn't know what they wanted to do in their life or what they wanted to major in college. I at least had, this is what I want to do. I want to be an artist. And the only thing I had to make a difference for the decision between was I was explaining, all right, there's two arts. There's artist, fine artist, and then there's graphic design. I'm like, I had no idea what graphic design was. And it's like, okay, let me break it down. Fine artist, you're going to struggle. It's, you know, it's going to be a hard path, blah, blah, blah. Graphic design, you can make a living. And I was like, let's do the living.
I like food. I'll take a living.
I like food. And I mean, it's taken all these years, and I'm just now back to selling art, but there's no way I'm supporting myself through it at the moment. But yeah, well, so.
I'm wondering, the Dayton community, you mentioned, because I know you've been here back and forth. If you had to, let's assume for a moment that we met and we're in Memphis, and you're trying to explain to me about the arts community in Dayton, because I'm an artist thinking about moving. What would you say to me about this community as far as what it means to be an artist here?
Oh, well, first thing I would say to them would be the accessibility of the arts community to each other, connectivity, and we're a lot more laid back. Like I said, from Charlotte, it was all pretty la-di-da. I mean, the whole city was la-di-da, but you had to know somebody, and you had to have all certifications, and you had to be very impressive. In Dayton, you can be an artist and just keep doing your stuff, and you know, show your work here and there, or through word of mouth. Word of mouth that's another thing awesome in Dayton. As far as just in general, you could like meet somebody within like one person saying something to another. And it's had worked in the channels for years trying to get up a totem pole. So I would say also Dayton is very friendly to creatives, very encouraging. It's always been a very performing arts and music city, like way back, like I know like the 1920s and 30s, you know, Dayton used to be a big booming city. And unfortunately in the 70s, the fall of automotive industries around here stuff impacted the city. But we never lost our love of supporting the arts. And, you know, we're fellow artists, you know, we might not be up there in the upper tier of awareness, but, you know, people that have been providing to wonderful groups like Culture Works and other organizations, they could be in front of artwork of an artist they've never met before pretty quickly. If like somebody, a good note, say, hey, I think you should see so-and-so's work, and then it could happen like that. So, and Dayton's friendly. Like I said, they're laid back, and we will mishmash things together that like fancier cities wouldn't. So we'll like, okay, because it's kind of like back to Miasma, we always had, during a gallery show, I forgot about that, a musician or a DJ perform. So we also support, it was, all our gallery opens were always a big party, and usually in Halloween, because that's my favorite Halloween. So it incorporated a lot of things. So there'll be costumes, we've had bands, like I said, DJs, it just depends on the space. And so affording a musical persons of having some time and space to perform in conjunction. So it was good for us, it was good for them. But that happens in Dayton a lot. It's like, okay, we're gonna have a barbecue, art show, you know, there's gonna be bands, and it's just an awesome, you know, not everything's like that, but a grouping of similar like minds, and then people that maybe don't feel comfortable going into museums or galleries. It's a little more down tempo, or, you know, and they could like have some barbecue or whatever, and see some art you normally wouldn't see.
It's that issue of accessibility. Let me ask you, I mean, I got 100 questions, so I don't even know if we'll have enough time today, but I'll ask you about your work. And thank you so much for making sure that we can share some of your work.
Yes.
I have some favorites. We're not talking about me then though today. So I want you to, but I do want you, since it's right there and we can see it clearly, that yes, the piece right, yes. So it would be your left. So am I right? Yeah, your left.
This
Yeah, that piece right there. Talk to me about that.
this was the first, maybe second of a series that is totally new in so many levels, and it pretty much only happened because of the largeness of the studio. And my friend Richard, he's a scrappy fellow too. He sees something that's going to be thrown away. He's like, oh, I could see another life for it. And that's a big
Yes.
thing. What my work is about too is taking things that are going to be discarded or just, I don't know what this is. I'm like, I could do something with that, you know. So I was giving out things another life. So these, they're actually cow hides, pieces of cow hide that have been treated in a white fire resistant material used for firefighter helmets. And where Richard works, they were moving a warehouse and they were going to load this whole pallet of these things. And he knew, like, I got to save that. There's somebody that'd be interested. So I moved back to town. I was like, Rachel. And so it's kind of like a canvas. It's primed, it's white. And I found the irregular shape. I mean, you vegetarians are going to like this, but they're half cow hide.
Yes.
It's full size. And I did first one on, it's intimidating because I never worked massive because of limitations of doorways.
Sure,
and
yeah.
canvas costs. The irregular shape of these really, I felt, was a big step in kind of me breaking out and exploring. I always wanted to do big and I always wanted to do more abstract. I really didn't have abstract training per se in college. But you know, that one was the first one. I cut it maybe in half of a cow and it was great. And I started using, I had been doing collage work for the first year or two. I got back here. And then this piece, it was a step into, it's kind of graphic design, it's a collage, but also there's paint. I also have dabbled now in oil pastels. I have zero training in that. I use it more in, you know, abstract way. I sometimes, to my detriment, I will use artistic materials that may or may not belong together as far as behaving, but I just can't stop that. You know, so this piece has a lot of that going on. Learning new way adhering paper to cow and other things like that. So this piece, I was really excited about, and so were some of my friends. And I was like, okay, I think that's good. I think I'll keep going this direction. So I've created a number of them. They usually include some messaging. This one doesn't have typography, but well, this one is a bit crazy. It's almost the full. You don't see all of it. A full hide, and these massive vertebrae. I have a thing for anatomy, etchings and stuff. I actually printed out in Dayton before I left for Charlotte. The good little hoarder I am, I brought it back to Dayton, and I finally found out a way to use them. I fought them forever. So that's collage as far as all, there's numbers. And if you know anything about old etchings of anatomy, there's usually like numbers on each one of those vertebrae, or it's a call out next to it with a number, and they'll have like the Latin name for the, whatever name for that part.
On that one, on either of them actually, but how many different pieces would you say, how many different materials would be a part of that?
That one is actually more simple, but there's spray paint. I actually kind of did it like an art snob, no, but I incorporated glitter paint.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's like a holographic kind of thing over black. There's oil pastel, and there's paper cutouts from magazines, these numbers.
Yeah.
And then there's some dribble paint, I think, that might be India ink. I mean, it's funny going back to Indian ink. That's like such a 101 starting out artist at school kind of medium.
Yeah.
It was cool going back into that. So, but I have others that, I mean, I've included every kind of thing possible. I mean, furniture, gilding rub, that doesn't belong on canvas, but here, that's what I want, you know? And then I've got porcupine quills, I got spray paint, I got acrylics, I just pretty much anything even in a hardware store, is a medium for me.
Yeah. So let's talk about that piece behind your head. Yeah, yeah, scoot that
Yeah,
one. Yeah, because you know I love that, and I was going to get you to talk
yes.
about it. So, so tell me about this. Pretend I know
Okay.
nothing.
Oh, so let's see. How did I go? Oh, as being a gatherer of wayward bits, I have always been a fan of dumpster diving.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's always been a part of finding interesting things. Try not to get disgusted in it. This actually was next to a dumpster find. I'm, like I said, at Front Street, and it's a big dump. There's a number of big dumpsters. And as I was leaving and I was heading home, I was exhausted. And I look over and I'm like, ooh, there's something leaning up against the dumpster. And I got closer, I put back the car up and went, oh, it's piano keys. And there was 2 kind of racks of them. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do with these? All right, they're going in the trunk. You know? I don't have a very art-friendly car as far as finding big things and jamming in there, but it doesn't stop me. Yeah. And so I backed up, went to the studio and loaded them. And they sat there for a couple of months. And I kind of was doing the cowhide things, and I stopped and was like, you know, I'm kind of feeling assemblagey again. You know, it had just been like 16 years. And I was like, I think it is time. So the keys came out, and it was very much graphic design for me. It was colors. There's the red felt, there's the black keys, the white/ivory keys. The wood tones are different, and the shape and texture. It was just a smorgasbord of goodies to work with. And I also hauled, there's a piece of funky wood behind it with like mint green paint on it. That is a Dayton find, I think, along the railroad tracks that went to Charlotte and came back. And it finally found its home in the piece. That's kind of like we were talking earlier. It's like, it takes a while, but sometimes one piece of something has to wait for another piece that makes sense together for me or for itself. And so, I mean, there's funky wood. So that's completely all found pieces.
You know, and that piece, that piece to me just really, I love it, but that piece just really speaks to who you are as a designer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got so much of you as a designer. How do you put those different kinds of things? Do you use one kind of glue? Do you use screws? How do you keep it together? How do you assemble it?
How do I keep it together?
Yeah, how do you keep it together, Rachel?
Not easily. It was, I like in the past had used certain kind of more silicone-based adhesives, because I would be working with a rusty bit and a wood bit, and normally if you have rust or something, you have to clean off the rust, and so you have a better surface or something here. I'm like, I can't be bothered with that. So I would use more kind of heavier glues. This one, I was told by our friend Dennis that, well, you know, best if you use wood glue. And I'm like, no, I don't like wood glue. You know, I've had experience, like it dries yellow, it's weak. He's like, well, there's different wood glues now. I'm like, all right, you know. And it worked out great. It really did. And hopefully they stay up on the board. And so my friend Gail, well, during this COVID thing, I've had one of my most stupendous bursts of creativity. I've been cranking through work. I'm sure there's a numerous reasons why, you know, during this time. But I think extra isolation, just kind of like, okay, and I have a space to go to beyond my house. So many of us weren't able to go out of our house for so long. Yeah. So that was awesome. But so I was doing Facebook. Just I'm a little lazy with my online presence. I guess maybe it's because it's too much like graphic design. But I would just put it up on Facebook and just show my friends. And I've sold a number of pieces that way during this thing. Yeah. My friend, she bought that, and there's 2 side pieces that aren't showing almost instantly. And other people have responded very well to it. It's like, oh, you still have that piano piece? I'm like, no, but it has spurred on me finding more piano bits. So I've now been trolling eBay and local stuff to do more work.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. So, so for you, I mean, this has been a difficult time for a lot of artists, especially
Yeah.
performing artists. It's really been a killer.
Oh God, yes.
Um, and and some people have said, I know I work with writers, and so many of what do I do? Just write. I just can,
Yeah.
whatever you can do, do your work now, because we may
Hmm.
be here for a little while in this.
Yeah.
It's
I pushed myself to get in the studio every day or at least every other day, maybe not with a plan, but being surrounded, as a visual artist, being surrounded by my goodies and stuff, like it could trigger something. But
that's really
I
smart.
think it's challenging for a writer to, in this time, and different layers of perhaps depression and anxiety and worries. I think that would be very challenging to, like, okay, I'm going to pull this out of my head. And so, I mean, and then musicians and everybody, but hopefully people are finding their way in to be able to bring out their creativity, because as creatives, we're happiest when we're creating.
Well, and I think we make such a contribution. You bring up, though, a
Yeah.
really excellent point that I mean, we can share with other artists, because I had a conversation with a writer, it's actually been quite a few weeks ago, but it was after
Hmm.
this the whole pandemic started, and we were talking, and I about the challenges of I need to write. I know that's what I need to do, and
Hmm.
so one of the things that I talked about, and I'm actually going to share something here.
Excellent.
And so, and this may look a little silly, but it's the same thing you were talking about, and that is
Yeah.
these are index cards.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what I said was, he asked me about something I was working on, and I said, well, I make these notes on this particular play that I'm working on, a particular piece,
Uh-huh.
on cards. Not all the time, but sometimes. But I said, I'm
Work.
doing it now because when I'm going to work, I need to surround myself with it
Yeah.
so that I physically have it around me wherever I'm going to work. So whether you're a writer, so put the books around you. If you're a
Yeah.
painter, get around the work. If you're a
Mhm.
musician, have the music around, whatever it is. I
And
mean,
do online concerts and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, find a way to surround yourself with it. It helps us. I know it helped me to focus on that particular piece by physically having it surrounding
Yeah.
me.
Oh,
And
complete.
normally I wouldn't do this. I mean, once in a while I use, but I was for this particular piece because I needed to be able to get focused into it and off
Yeah.
of everything else that was going
Because all of us
on.
have been talking about how much our minds have been drifting,
Yes.
can't focus during this time. I have a friend or two that are just at a loss with their inability to concentrate, just to getting household tasks done. So, yeah, when you're talking big picture, writing a play, or it's
Yeah.
like you need to focus for sure.
You do, and you need to use every trick in the book is the way I
A
look at
hundred
it.
percent, 100%.
So when you think about over the years,
Hmm.
someone says to you, which I'm asking now, so Rachel, what's the most difficult thing about being an artist?
Surviving. I hate to say it, money, but that's nothing new. All creatives throughout time have struggled with being able to eat, have a roof, pay bills, but also have, especially like if I didn't work in found stuff, a big part of me working in found stuff was it was free. And I'd be splurging going to Mendelssohn's for some widgets and stuff. So fortunately, that worked out for me. I might invest in paint, but I have to be frugal. I have allowed myself, since I moved back, to up to a point, just go ahead and get that paint, or go ahead and get that brush, or if you think this is going to be better with this, up to a limit, I'll still penny pinch. Let it happen for the art. Whether I'm going to eat in like a year, that's a different story. But for now, I just feel like I'm kind of like in this big blossoming, and I'm going to roll with it as best as I can. So I would say finances. but in Dayton, you know, I would say like another city, contacts and stuff, but Dayton has been great. Friends are great. All my new friends, there's so many other artists and musicians I've met coming back. And through, I mean, it was like, oh, you know, they were so great. Like, Rachel, you need me so-and-so. You need me so-and-so. And it's just like, boom, 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 boom. You know, my world expanded greatly. So that's been cool.
Yeah, no, it's unlike a lot of communities. When you think about who else is doing work, whether it's in dance music or whatever, and you'll know what I mean because it's had to happen to you, where you go to something and whether it's a concert or whether it's dance, whether it's whatever it is, and you're just inspired, and it puts something in you to make you
a little flame starts flickering.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm curious for you, who are some of the artists that give you that over the years? Just think about who's really just sort of, or an event that you've been to that just sort of inspired you.
My mind.
Yeah, that's
well,
it.
I gotta say, back in the day, for David and I working together, and up to this day, Louise Meldelson, I mean, the mother of assemblages, you know.
Amen.
You know, I often work, I find like, if you find a thing of multiples, I could see them as art as a group as opposed to just this one thing. Or it could be a piece with all orange in it, all different pieces. I'm inspired by seeing other people repurpose things. You know, sometimes it's more literal. They use, what's her name? Butterfield? She did the horses with the driftwood and stuff like that.
Yes.
So that kind of work really gets me jazzed. I don't work towards, I'm going to use my bits and pieces to make a small truck in little sculpture. It becomes what it becomes. But artists that do, like Butterfield, work towards, my goal is the shape of a horse and trying to bring the expression of the body through not conventional materials, driftwood. And let me see. I get excited, I think, when I see art that I could tell there's somewhat of a graphic designer in there, or, you know, that because I pick up on those aesthetics.
Yeah, the kindred soul.
You know, you can't help it. Like, I can't go in a restaurant and not look like a little table stand and go, I'm not sure about their font choice, you know, and color. You can't go anywhere as a graphic designer and not like start, oh, wow, that's, no. Oh, but going to places and seeing it used very well as a designer, but also integrated in art. You know, if they do it fabulously, and it's just like, oh man, you know, that's tight, you know, that kind of work. I also get inspiration from going to see shows. Well, I think it was big. A plus in the South was I exposed to the textile industry. You know, it was massive back in the day, cotton down there, and there'd be a lot of the looms and manufacturing of fabrics, a lot of upholstery, but also cottons. And I worked within the field too. So I was like, my own mind was open to that. I started thinking, learning how things are woven, or this, you know, I did in like grade school, high school, the art weaving, the rudimentary, you know, with yarn. So I kind of like grew interest in that thing. I actually went to like quilt shows. I'm like, I'm not a quilt person. You ask my friend, but there was a whole artistic window open there for me, because quilts are graphic design. You know, they're a lot of them, geometric patterns and intricates, and you know, the color palette and everything. So, you know, I sometimes I don't know how much I can squirrel away in the back of my head. Like, I just actually did my first weaving piece a couple months ago on that dumpster find with the keyboards. You took all the keys off, and there was these pieces of wood with these metal pegs, and I was like, I could use that as a weaving loom. So actually, it's right here. I'll show you.
Oh, let me see. Yeah, that's great.
You know, I make things difficult for myself more than I should, but it's like I get an idea, and it's like, I can't be stopped. So,
oh wow!
So this was a part of, ends up, it was not a piano keyboard. It was like or like a keyboard of electronic where there's 2 rows.
Yes,
So
yes.
this was one of the panels, one of the levels the keys are on. And so it was born as a horizontal, but I decided to make it a vertical.
Yeah.
And
Oh, look at this.
yeah, so while I was down south, I worked for designing packaging for a big yarn company. And like on my last day there, they're like, we're teaching you how to knit. I'm like, okay. You know? And I started off with a scarf and it ended up in an Afghan. I'm like, I'm done with this. But I had hoarded a lot of free yarn. And I kept that yarn. And so that yarn met this keyboard that was repurposed from a dumpster find here at Front Street. And then I collect metal bits and everything. But this piece really shows repurposing things, I think. It was really hard weaving. I mean, really, I had to weave this way, and it's really tight and tiny.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then I love Japanese aesthetics, and I thought these bits reminded me, they're kind of like I don't know, I love the kimono and everything. I have actually sewn kimono bags and purses, and how they tie things off and how they visually do things, that's kind of a little bit in my head. But then there's these little metal, I like to save everything I can from a piece as I break it down. So even these tiny little metal bits from the keyboard, and I kept them on the sides. Like I make jewelry also, and I was like, oh, they're kind of like beads. I'm going to save them for one day. So it all kind of came together in this kind of.
It's so much fun. Yeah, but I'm curious about this one. So when you did that weaving, did you weave it? Because I've done some weaving, and it's not a picnic all the time.
No,
it's tiny and tight. So did you?
It's
you
really
didn't weave it on that? Did you?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, you did.
Yeah.
Okay. I need a nap just thinking about it.
Seriously, it's like I said, I don't have a lot of patience, but when it comes to this art of my world, I'm like, all right, we're going to do this. You're going to get the results you have in your head, hell or high water.
Oh, that's amazing. Look at that.
So it goes against what you normally you run vertically.
Yes, of course.
My west lanes or whatever, they go this way, but I did it long ways.
Oh, that is a trick.
Short ways, and then ran long things. So I was trying to innovate. Normally you have like a shuttle, is what it calls, and you have the arm going to go in and out, in and out. So I
what did
everything
you use?
Really worked. A piece of rusty metal I could, and like, oh, this is going to upset so many people if they saw me doing it. But then that didn't work, and I bent a piece of wire and tied it to it so it wouldn't slip off. And then finally went down in my basement. I still have unpacked boxes. I have a plastic, like almost like a children's needle size. You could put a whole thing of yarn through it. Like finally found that. So at the end I was able to go, it was just so tight. But yeah, innovating all the time.
Yeah, because that would be incredible. So the old weft went the wrong way, or the different way. Exactly. Yes, we'll say a different way, not the wrong way. So whenever you're working on something, I mean, do you ever get to a place where I'm just not satisfied with this?
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do when that happens?
I put it aside, and knowing that if I kind of keep buggering with it, so to speak, I would probably push it over the edge and ruin it. Or
that's interesting.
Yeah. You just because art isn't better because you just keep adding more and more to it. Obviously there's minimalism stuff, but I'll tuck it aside. I will sometimes keep it in my periphery around me so I can walk by and think of it, because I never know when I go maybe out into the world, as limited as it is, and I go see something, I'm like, oh yeah, and then I could jump back to it. I don't have to dig through a pile. So it's a little bit messy around my space, but I'll move on also to another piece. I usually have multiple pieces going at once, at least since I've been in the studio, because I have table space. I have floor space, like these huge cowhides, and I set up a corner where I have like a kind of a rack system was left over from like merchandising stuff from Elder Beerman selling out. And movable pegs on it, so I could hang art or the cowhides and work on it there. And I could go to a table and work on more of these wall, smaller pieces. So that has opened up a lot. And then I have all my collage stash too nearby. I think that has been the biggest thing, is not having all my art supplies scattered to the wind in a house. Like, oh, the bedroom has this and that has that, especially since moving, like, okay, maybe that's in the basement. Wait, did I pack that? You know, so it's been great bringing it all out. I live in a small place in the Oregon district, and so it's been good to, like, quote unquote, free up some space and bring it into one space that I could get my hands on very readily. So I could have all my paints in one spot, colored pencils.
So if you've got a challenging piece, you can let it rest and move on to something else until it's...
But it'll be like burning and tingling. I need to get back to it.
Yeah. So, okay. So I've got just a couple more questions here. One,
Sure.
if someone comes along and they're young today and they're thinking about going into art, they're in high school and they're doing whatever, and you meet them at an opening and they say, well, what should I do? What advice would you give to somebody who isn't yet in the field but has been playing with it and thinking about it?
Yeah, I really do enjoy those opportunities. I did it more informally. I mean, I still do it when I run into somebody, but I was given an opportunity. I taught for a year at UD, graphic design stuff, and some other, like, portfolio reviews for years and years at AIGA and the local creative schools. But it's been exciting with this studio. Back when we had First Fridays and open ones, we're going to try our first one here in July. But that's an opportunity I've run into more creative grade school, high school age. And, you know, either came with mom and dad, friends, and it's really cool. Our space is neat, I think, it's because we have space and shelves, and you can see our materials. If we try to tidy up, but then you can see works in process. It's big enough, and you can see finished pieces. We have a bit of, like, we're back here, a nice clean gallery space. So they kind of, like, start seeing, like, oh, you know, it's just kind of, you know, there's so, a child might think, I mean, I don't want to overgeneralize, but, like, art is a painting. That's only, they say, somebody says the word art, they think of painting or a sculpture. And what I like, especially throughout all the creatives, especially at Front Street, somebody with new eyes, because, oh, that's a thing. Oh, you know, it's just like, found bits of rust. Is that it? Oh, that's art. Okay. So I like seeing those kind of, like, the eyes get a little bit wide, and it's great, you know, if I have time, I'll ever bump into them or they come up to me and ask questions, I would tell them, so yeah, art can be anything, really, you know, just your mind's the limitation. You'll probably want to explore drawing, like colorful or liquid pigments is usually, like, how most of us start out. And now, you know, the whole world is open online as far as looking up, like, say this child might be like, well, you know, I'm really drawn to this clay piece you have here. I'm like, oh, well, what, you know, what I did was I was able to take, like, this summer class when I was your age at Riverbend, you know, take some pottery, get my hands dirty, and then I could go, that was really cool. Yeah, but I'm not going to do that, you know? And it's like, you know, try things out. You know, like me, I didn't focus on any one thing. It wasn't like sketching was my lifelong whatever, or this and that. But I pulled it all together, and I use all the tons of things from all different things I've done throughout my life, and then our creative world. So it's like, you know, it's like, see if, you know, you could have a class, or there's take an on, you know, like a little online, watch videos of artists working, and read, you know, more you have to pull from. As I'm a big ancient history and culture person, so you know, having taken stuff in school with that, you know, I can pull from that kind of too, imagery. But, you know, I tell them, you don't have to be super big, you know, just take something simple, like your favorite object in your bedroom, or maybe your mom or dad or brother, sister, and just take some time and start sketching. And, you know, get a sketchbook. I mean, it could be your school notebook, something as simple as that. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and encourage them to, you know, just kind of start putting it out there, and not to be ashamed of it. It's gonna, you know, it's not gonna be perfect. it's not gonna be perfect for a while, but see what along the way could, spark something.
That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. So
Good.
ask you one more question, because I know we have to
Sure.
go. But so if I'm, I'm out there, and let's say I'm watching this, and I'm,
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the folks out watching, and I look and I go, oh, I love that. So if I want to know about Rachel, where do I go? How do I find your work? What do I do?
Well, I was thinking about that. Well, I've been thinking about that for years. I was like, I should have a web page. Then I'll start building one and whatever. And then, because I've always been conflicted, is I have my graphic design and I need a portfolio out there for that. And then I'm on Coraflot, and it's mostly for my design portfolio. But I keep a folder of fine art that sometimes I turn on, sometimes I turn off for people like, oh, well, let's see what's clicking in their head in the background.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of times, like, oh, maybe this. But so I mean, I have that site. It's set up for designers and creatives specifically, but I have my Instagram, which has become more focused on my art because I've been creating more. It
Sure.
used to have more like photos and this and that and events and stuff. I've kind of started cleaning that up, and so it's more my art. I'm bad about it, doing hashtags and stuff. I just kind of like drop it in there, like, you guys figure it out or something.
Yeah.
But so yeah, Instagram, I have most of my stuff. I need to get a lot more up there. I'm actually had my art professionally shot for the first time. My friend Ty, he was photographer at the Dayton Daily. He does photography at another job now, but he wanted a piece of my art so bad that was hanging in my house, and he's like, I'm finally charging at least more reasonably close to the value of the piece.
Sure.
So it's like, especially in this, who knows who has jobs, just dropping that big chunk. And for friends, I'm not bartering for chickens, but I will.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet. But so we can do installments. Yeah, so that was cool. But then I came up with I need to start photographing this, and so we worked out a thing. He brought his professional equipment in, his professional eye, and I started photographing my work. And so in trade towards the piece of artwork he now owns. So that was really cool. That's another thing about Dayton. We're very open to doing that kind of stuff. At least I like to think, we feel, we want other people to experience or have their music or their art in their lives. So I was like, well, let's talk,
Yeah. There definitely is that support system out there.
Yeah.
If somebody's looking for you, Instagram's a good place to go find you, right?
Okay, Rachy, Rachy, RACHY 1.0. I might change at some point. For most of my art is.
Okay.
Yeah, and Facebook, whatever my Facebook is. I would say Rachy 1.0 is the best place to start seeing my art. Unfortunately, I really don't like how it crops into square shapes. So much of my stuff can run very vertical. So that, or just email me.
Great.
Should I give my email address? No, I probably shouldn't give. No, I was wondering about giving you my email address. Like, no, I don't need that in my life.
That may be much too right now. Yeah.
Right. But Facebook, you find me Facebook, and I usually have my art up there too. And you can personally message me.
That's great. Rachel, this was so good. For everybody that's watching, there's a wide range of artists that are in this community and that are supported by Culture Works all around. If you are interested in supporting Culture Works, if you want to know more about Culture Works, go to the website cultureworks.org.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone should go, because that's where we can join and become a member and help support artists. So for everybody out there watching, cultureworks.org is the website. Please go there. There's other artist interviews. You'll be able to meet lots of different artists as you weave through the website. Rachel, thank you so much. This was so good. Next time, maybe not through this, and I'll tell Dennis I'm sending air hugs. Okay.
Air hugs.
Yeah, air hugs. Absolutely. So this was
This
good.
has been
Thank
a
you so
pleasure.
much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, CultureWorks.
All
You
right.
take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.